everyone, welcome back to another session of VFIS Talk. My name is Nicholas and I'm an ERP consultant for VFIS. Basically, we are an IT consulting firm that specializes in the implementation of Business Central, which is an ERP based on the cloud from Microsoft. And we also do business intelligence and also B2B web development services. So today I would like to discuss with you guys the subject of risk management and control. I know that's a very tedious subject and people usually they don't like internal controls because they will always say, it prevents me from doing my job, it's too complicated, too much approval, but you shouldn't take it that way, Internal controls are there to make your company do better, put in place the best practices. And also, they will prevent and detect errors, like when you do your annual checkup with your doctor. If you don't do it and you have cancer, and you don't know about it, and then when you find out, it might be too late, So internal controls, the same thing. It can save your life. So let's take a look at that graphic. Here we have the causal framework for internal controls. So the internal controls is composed by 5 elements: control environment, risk assessment, control activities, information and communication, and monitoring activities. Today we'll focus on the risk assessment and control activities. So basically, risks are threats to your company, and there are many ways to deal with it, and just wanted to take you to a small glimpse on what Business Central can do for that. So one of the risks we often heard is the technological risk. There are a lot of elements in the technological risk, but let's take two of the most popular risks: security threats, which is often underlooked. And just recently, government, the GPS company, they got hacked and their system didn't work. People couldn't load, maps, and it was very bad for a couple of days. And then you have the rapidly changing technology. Everything goes so fast right now. When you pay a certain amount of money on a new system, well, you want it to last as long as possible. So what can Business Central do about that? It's very simple. As you can see here, and as you know, Business Central is a cloud-based system. So every data, it's stored in the cloud and it's managed by Microsoft. And as you can see, the Pentagon signed a contract with Microsoft for their cloud service. So I'm pretty sure that if Microsoft is good enough for the Pentagon, it should also be good enough for your company, And, you don't have to deal about maintaining your server, hiring an IT person to deal with that. Everything is dealt by Microsoft, and I'm pretty sure they have the resources to hire the best in the field. Also, Business Central is also an evolutive system, like it's always improving itself through updates. So that way, you can be sure that your system will always be up to date, and you are sure that your system will always be able to compete with the other system. Let's take a look at other risks. Here we have the risk of internal frauds, excessive vendor payment, and sometimes it can happen that you pay additional fees for late payment, and you can also miss a payment discount, which is very sad because this is very easy to prevent. So what can Business Central do about it? First, we often talk about the segregation of duties in order to prevent fraud or any errors. Here, that can work through the approval workflow system that is in place. And also, of course, at the end, there's always you can do a budget analysis. And what's nice with Business Central is that the budget is integrated in the system. We had a client that their budget wasn't in the system. It was like on Excel. So whenever they want to do a variance analysis, they had to export their numbers to Excel, and after they have to do some manipulation in order to put their budget. And as you know, the more manipulation they do, there's more risk of making a mistake. So now everything is integrated, it's more efficient, and you have less chance of making a mistake, And for the excessive vendor payment, here you can also create purchase invoice based on receipt line and use the two-way match. So you make sure that your purchase order match with your receipt and your receipt match with the purchase invoice sent by your vendor. And as for the additional fees issues, well, we have a function for the suggest vendor payment, which consists of putting a due date for the payment of your vendor. Usually it's prepared 1 week in advance, and the system will pick up all the transactions that are due within the date from today and that date. We have customer that used to do like a manual suggest function where they have their invoice and file, and they have to look through the file and find discount, and it was managed manually. And everything that's manual also have more risk of making an error. So these are just some example for operational risk. So as you can see, this is the workflow page from Business Central from the Depot company, and these are like the workflow templates that are already there. You must know that they are very customizable in order to meet your needs. And here's an example. You have a general journal batch approval workflow where you can approve all the general ledger entries. So that way you have an assurance that your number works. And also here, for an example, you have the vendor approval workflow where you can authorize the creation of a new vendor. That can also prevent frauds. And as you see here below, you have a purchase invoice approval workflow where you can approve a purchase invoice. And I just want to show you like a small example of workflows in a real company. Here, as you can see, there's a purchase, order, and invoice approval workflow layered by amount. So as the amount go up, you can also change the approver, right? So it's very flexible and customizable. And also, as your business grow and evolve, your control need also to be flexible and adapt to the new realities. So because it's so customizable, we are going to make sure that the controls will always meet your needs. And as for the suggest vendor payment, as you can see here, you would just put the last payment date, and the system will pick up all the transactions within today and that date. And also by clicking the find payment discount, the system will also look for the discounts without necessarily analyzing the due date. That's very nice and come by default. So these are just a few examples of controls. And I just want to conclude that a lot of the best practices are also already integrated in the system. So thank you very much for listening. And for more information, please visit our website at www.vfis.com.